note, those of you who have come to more than one of these forums over the last year, is the addition of the cordless mic. So we have 2 cordless mics, and the moderator will share with the candidates on this end. And I really want to thank my co-president, Lynn Akina, and her partner, Al Tremblay, which I wanted to give away, where they're sitting way in the back there, for getting us the cordless mic system here tonight. I'm Nancy Lockwood for the League of Women Voters. I'm co-president along with Lynn Akina. I'd like to thank the Albany County Public Library for their help with the logistics and setup for tonight's forum. Tonight's forum is for the Albany County School District Board of Trustee candidates from Area A, Area B, and at large. And this is a little confusing and a little different than some of our other races, so I'm going to go over a little of how this all works. All candidates for the positions are here tonight, and they were all invited to participate. There are 3 open positions in Area A, and we have 4 candidates running for those 3 positions. There's 1 open, and so would you guys all raise your hand for Area A? First 4, oh, we're missing one. Wait, where's Nate? Nate said he was coming tonight. Hopefully he'll get here in the next few minutes. Then we have 1 open position in Area B and 1 candidate for that position. And then we have 2 candidates running for the at-large position, and that's 1 position. And then the last 2 on the end there. And then unlike voting in the wards for city council, you vote for candidates in all of those areas. So they have to reside in the area for A and B. But as voters, we can vote for candidates in Area A, Area B, and at large. Y'all get it?
What's Area A and what's Area B?
That's a good question. Maybe I can direct that to one of the candidates over here to define your area.
What was the question?
What's Area A and what's Area B?
And why don't you use the mic to respond? James, you want to take that one?
Sure, I'll take that one. Is it on now?
Click it all the way up. That's what I found. You got to push it all the way up.
Okay. Area A is all of Albany County. It includes city and outside the city limits. Area B is, a candidate for Area B has to live outside of the city limits in the county and at large. Okay, I messed up. Area A is only city limits. Area B is outside of the city limits, and at large is both within the city and outside of the city limits in the county.
There'll be a quiz afterwards. We have 1 more forum for local candidates next Thursday evening here at the library. It's on October 18, 7 to 9 p.m. again. And that will be for the Albany County Fire District 1, Hospital Board Trustees, and Laramie Rivers Conservation District candidates. In addition, there will be a candidate forum for gubernatorial candidates on Thursday, October 25, from 5:15 until 6:45 at the ANS Auditorium. That's the Arts and Science Auditorium on the UW campus. This is co-sponsored by the State League of Women Voters of Wyoming, the Wyoming Public Media, the Laramie Boomerang, and the University of Wyoming's Political Science Club and Political Science Department. I'd like to remind everyone that recording of any kind is not allowed. The forum is being video recorded by the League and will be posted on the League of Women Voters website. On the back table to my left, your right, there are brochures regarding the League, including membership brochures. We invite you to consider becoming or joining the League. In addition, there are free copies of the Wyoming State League publication, A Look at Wyoming Government. Still got it? Yeah. Candidates have also provided information and literature about themselves, which is available on the back table as well. In addition, on the back table is a copy of our voter guide, and I'll explain a bit more about that in a minute here. The general election will be Tuesday, November 6th, with polling places open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You may also vote early by completing a ballot at the county clerk's office or by requesting an absentee ballot from the clerk's office beginning, and that began already, September 21 through November 5. Election information can be obtained from the clerk's website or from the Wyoming Secretary of State's website. If you are not registered to vote or need to change your voter information, you can do so at the clerk's office through October 22. You will need a picture ID if you're going to do that. You can also register or change your registration after October 22 through November 5 if you also cast an absentee ballot at that time. And you can register or change your registration at your polling place on Election Day. If you have any special needs, voting accommodation aids are available at each polling place and at the clerk's office. The election judges can assist you, and you can contact the clerk's office to make arrangements for assistance in advance. And in addition to voting for our elected officials during this election, there will be some ballot issues. There is a 1% general purpose tax on the ballot, as well as a 4% lodging tax. These are taxes that are currently in effect, and you are voting whether or not you want to keep those or not. In addition, we have 4 judicial retentions for judges in districts A and B, and 2 circuit court judges on the ballot. The League has prepared a pro-con statement or pro-con flyers regarding the 2 ballot issues. That's the 4% lodging tax and the 1% general purpose tax. Those are on the back table. And we are also preparing a pro-con flyer on the judicial retentions. I don't think we have that available yet, right? Yeah, okay. We don't take a position on either of the taxes or on the judicial retentions, so those are just informative. On the table at the side of the room, over here on my right, the county are sample ballots. The county clerk has informed me that the fire district #1 director race should not have been included on the city precinct ballots, and they residents. It's only open for county residents. We ask that you not take a sample ballot with you, as we only have 1 copy of each ballot. And there is a ward and precinct map posted over here, so you can check and see where your residence is and find out what ward and precinct you are, and then that'll tell you which ballot you use. As I mentioned, our voter guide is on the back table as well. The League of Women Voters of Laramie and the Daily Boomerang will publish the voter guide on October 21. It will be as a pull-out section in that Sunday paper of the Boomerang. The voter guide is also posted on the League's website, and there are copies available at the Albany County Public Library and the clerk's office and other locations around town. At this time, I'd like to give any other candidates that are here tonight and not involved with the school board races to stand up and briefly introduce themselves.
Hi there, my name is Mike Pierce. I'm running for Albany County Treasurer. Thanks.
Thank you. Just the one tonight. At tonight's forum, questions for the candidates are to be written down and can be submitted at any time. There are pencils and pads of paper in each row of seats. Raise your hand when you have a question, and a League member will collect the question from you and give it to our moderator. Questions should be directed towards all candidates in a race, not towards a particular candidate. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to respond to each question. We do have a timekeeper who's sitting up front here, and she will signal you by holding up a sign indicating the time remaining when you are approaching your time limit at the conclusion of your time limit. Our moderator may edit questions for clarity and appropriateness and may ask further follow-up questions to help expand upon an issue. In addition, the moderator may also vary the allowed response time based on the complexity of the question and overall time constraints of the forum. The last 20 or 30 minutes or so of time will be given for informal conversation, and so at that time we're going to ask you to help us put away chairs, clear out the space so we've got more room to mingle. At this time, I'd like to thank our candidates who are standing for office and also turn things over to our moderator tonight, who is Mike Massey. Mike's been a longtime resident with his wife here in Laramie. He's worked in many, many fields, doing work with museums, humanities, disability fields. He's been a part-time instructor in history at UW. He was the special assistant to the UW president, and when he retired from that 3 years ago. And of course, he also served for 16 years in the Wyoming State Legislature. So, welcome, Mike. There was one other thing, and you might have noted it in the boomerang, but I just wanted to make note. Tony Lopez just died unexpectedly, and he was a candidate for the county attorney. And so they are trying to get information out that his name is, of course, already on the ballot, and any votes made will not be counted. There is a procedure that would allow the Republican Party to select another nominee to replace him. And if that is done, that will be publicized. But that nominee would be voted on as a write-in candidate. So if you marked Tony Lopez expecting that vote to go to someone that they nominate, if they choose to do that, it will not count. You'll have to do it as a write-in candidate.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. There are still plenty of seats up front here. We have a no spitting rule here, so it should be safe to sit in the front seats. I will start the questions each round with a different individual, and whoever I start with, if we just go to the left, and when we reach Lawrence, we'll come back and start over here and do a round robin. Again, we have a timekeeper, so keep an eye on her. And I'll try to combine these questions as much as possible. So let's start off with a warm up. And we'll start with you, Beth. And that is, introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about yourself and why you're running for the school board.
Can you hear me? No.
No.
You have to turn them on. Hello?
There you go.
Yes. Well, thank you to the League of Women Voters and to the library and to my fellow candidates for hosting this tonight. My name is Beth Bear. I am the proud mother of 2 boys, a 2nd grader and a 5th grader, who are here in the audience with my family. I realize it's a school night, but sometimes you need your family by your side, so they're there in the back. I've been actively involved in their school through volunteering in their classroom, PTA activities such as Teacher Appreciation Week and popcorn sales and book sales, and also fundraising for PTA and things like the Teton Science School. I've also had the opportunity to educate in their school about invasive species, which is my career focus. I am the Aquatic Invasive Species Coordinator for the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, and I have had that job and been with the department for 13 years since moving to Laramie. My education background, I have a fisheries degree, a bachelor's from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and a master's degree from Montana State University. And just some of the things I've worked on that I hope will be of benefit to the board if I'm elected are things like boards and committees through PTA. Can you hear me or is that?
Yeah, you're doing okay.
Okay. Through PTA, church, and work. I've worked on budgets and grants, fundraising, personnel and volunteer management, report and plan development, public surveys, laws and regulation, and outreach and education, all of which will be helpful as a school board member. I'm running for school board because I believe that our kids' quality education. Well, that went way faster than I thought.
That's good to know. Thanks for having me. My name is Nate Martin. I'm running for school board because for the past 2 or so years, my professional life has embroiled me in the crisis of public education funding that's facing Wyoming schools. I'm the director of a nonprofit called Better Wyoming. One of our focus areas is advocating against cuts to public school funding. And it's just been a dispiriting legislative session after legislative session. I'm, running after watching the sort of the milieu unfold from Cheyenne and seeing some of the threats that are facing our public schools. That encouraged me to sign up to run. I come from a public education background myself. I grew up in Rock Springs. I'm the son of a public school teacher and a teachers union member. I've lived in a number of places all over the world, including New Orleans, where I got to see the absence of public schools. They have the only charter-only public school system in the country, which has given me a unique perspective in that manner. And I'm just excited to attempt to become a public servant.
Jason Zakuno, and I want to thank the league for hosting this and everyone for coming and attending. I've lived in Laramie for 20 plus years. I work at the University of Wyoming currently as a dispatcher at the police department. I have 2 kids, a 7-year-old that's in 2nd grade and a 2-year-old that is or will eventually attend school, so I have a keen interest in their education and their friends' education to make sure that it is the best that we can provide. I am running because I care about the education our community provides, and I want to make sure we're meeting the needs of students, teachers, and parents. I want to make sure we're not constraining ourselves to current trends, but rather using established and proven teaching methods. And I know the only way that we can get there is by working together. I always feel that we can always improve no matter what the subject is, and I would be very honored to serve on the school board.
My name is Jason Tangeman, and I'm running for a 2nd term on the school board. I'm an attorney here in town. I've been practicing for over 20 years at Nicholas and Tangeman. Lots of folks know my law partner, Phil Nicholas, and then most folks actually know my wife, Laura, even better. She's at the rec center. We have 2 boys in the high school currently. I first got involved with the district directly when it came to the development and construction of the new high school. I was on the committee actually with Mike in regards to that development, and then the bond issue. I got involved with that. Some folks got to know me from the district. They asked if I might be interested in running. They were interested, lots of folks were interested in improving teacher morale in the district, perhaps looking at considering a new superintendent, that sort of thing. I agreed, sort of reluctantly, to be honest with you. Reluctantly, I got involved. We ended up hiring a new superintendent, and since that time, in my experience, it's been really great with Julie Yenny as our superintendent. And during the last 4 years, I've enjoyed myself and decided to run again. I've been helpful, I feel like, in regards to facilities. Certainly with my legal training, legal issues come up. I feel like I've been helpful to the board, and I do committee work also that, again, I feel helpful with, and I feel that I can continue with that for 4 more years and be a benefit to the community.
Good evening, I'm Janice Marshall, running for re-election. Thank you to the league, and thank you, Mike, for being our MC tonight. I'd like to credit Dr. Dennis Knight, who's in the audience tonight, for bringing my husband and me to Laramie. Many years ago, we both got our degrees in the botany department here at the university, and we own a contracting business here in town. We have 4 children who have successfully graduated from Laramie High School. 2 went on to the University of Wyoming, 2 went out of state. They were very well prepared for the challenges that their higher education brought them from their experience at Laramie High School. I got involved years ago when my children were in school, and when I ran for school board, I did not anticipate that this would be a long-term thing that I would do. But as I have continued to work at this, I really enjoy this work. It's so important. Education is one of the single most important investments that we can make in our society. And I feel like that our school board is in a very good place right now for moving forward, for moving student achievement, for employee satisfaction. And I'd really welcome the opportunity. And Lynn, I can't tell, does that mean I'm out of time? Okay. I would welcome the opportunity to continue to be part of this. We have set some very high goals with our strategic plan, goals that I think that are attainable. Thank you.
Now you are.
Hello, my name is Rob Mobley. I want to thank everybody as well for hosting the event and coming on out.
I cannot understand you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
My name is Rob Mobley. I want to thank everybody for coming out and for this evening. I guess I want to run for the school board. I have 3 children in the district. I have them in each level. One at the elementary school, Slade, one at the middle school, and one at the high school. The schools are very good. My family and I, we moved here because of the education in Wyoming. Back in Nevada, where we were prior to here, I served on a school board. And I think one of the things I bring is experience to seeing the detrimental effects of severe budget cuts. My first year on my school board, we lost $4 million out of our budget and we were only expecting a loss of 1.4 million. The other 2.6 million led us to firing, laying off 40 teachers, and we saw our student-teacher ratios go through the roof. So I just bring a different experience coming from a place that was just economically devastating, and I saw how bad it was in our district. And knowing what worked and what didn't work, I think I could definitely bring a different perspective here to Albany County, number one. I'm an educator. I still teach. I teach online, but I still teach American history and Western American history. So I understand how important it is to be prepared to go on in your future. So education is just something that I find to be one of the most important things anyone can do in their life. It doesn't matter at any time.
I'm Lawrence Correa. I want to thank the Laramie League of Women Voters. I want to make sure I got that right. For these community forums, these are very important to the community to put a face to the candidates that you see on paper. I was born and raised in Cheyenne. I am a product of public education in the state of Wyoming. I had a wonderful experience going to school in Cheyenne. As a matter of fact, Jason's father was one of my teachers and one of my coaches. And I've lived in Laramie for the past 32 years. During my time here, I have worked as a police officer, I have worked as a paraprofessional in the school district, and I currently work as a social worker for the Department of Family Services doing child protective services. I have been on the board for 10 years now. I was elected twice and then asked to fill Ruth's shoes when she could no longer complete her service to the board. And I said this before and I'm going to say it again. This is the best job I've ever had. I love the work. I love working with the people on the board. I've been through the good, I've been through the bad, and now we're great. And I want to continue that great work. And one thing I have to say before I stop is I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Sue Ibera, who reached out to me 10 years ago and asked that I run for the school board. I didn't think I was going to get elected, but here I am. And I would appreciate 4 more years. Thank you.
Okay, we're off to a great start here. This next question, we'll start with Jason Sekuman. Is that
Sakuna.
Sekuna. And so here's the question, Jason, and then we'll move to your left after you answer it. In light of the district's strategic plan, where would you focus the district's resources in order to reach the strategic goals?
Let me just browse through here because I thought I had this memorized, but apparently memory does not always stick with you. So, honestly, I would say focusing on operations, making sure that the facilities are well maintained, transparency, food, all of that with the school lunch issues, with the outdated buildings we have for both Slade and Vidal, the foundation issues facing the middle school. That's where I feel like we should put a lot of focus on. That's where I think a great amount of money should be put on in order to make sure we have the facilities to teach our children correctly. Unfortunately, a lot of that depends on the state, especially Slade and Vidal. So until the state kind of works out, there's not much we can do, but we can continue to put money in to try and keep these structures going before we face a fairly significant infrastructure crisis. If, God forbid, the middle school did completely sink and we lost half of it, that would be a pretty big crisis of where to send those 400 or 500 students.
As I understand the question, I think it has to be understood in the context that we're probably going to be looking at 2 more cuts this year and next year. It could be as much as $1 million a year. And in that context, I think one of the priorities needs to be to keep our teachers paid well, focus on trying to achieve a step for our teachers if possible, but also try to keep class size at a place where it is satisfactory to not only our teachers, but also to our parents and students. Also looking at trying to maintain the status quo as it comes to perhaps instructional facilitators. And so I think in general, there's cuts coming. I'll tell you that Superintendent Yenny certainly has a plan to address these upcoming cuts, but it's really in human resources and personnel, class sizes, that sort of thing, where we need to focus our resources. That's where I think we need to focus our resources.
I think it's important as we talk about funding that we are balanced in our approach, that we need to make sure we're looking at all of our needs and balancing what we have with what our needs are. One of the goals that I'm most enthusiastic about in our strategic plan goals is the 95% graduation rate. I think that's doable in Albany County. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some resources. It may take additional personnel. We have a dropout prevention specialist in place now. It may take other support staff to achieve that goal. It may take some more tutoring funds. I'm not sure what all that's going to take, but I think that it's really important that we dedicate all funds that we can to our staff. And Jason brings up a good point about future cuts. We don't know what's going to happen in the legislature this year, but I think we can be pretty sure that there are going to be more cuts, and it's important that we do everything we can to keep those cuts as far away from the classroom as possible.
Yeah, not cutting classroom support materials is critical if we want our children to continue to succeed. That was one of the things that my prior experience tells me. Standardized testing went down, morale went down with staff. It is just not worthwhile. There are other places. There's non-essential operations. We did a very good job in my previous district of trimming $1.6 million, and it didn't affect anything in classrooms. It didn't affect teachers. There was a lot of consolidation in district with district personnel, but we really tried to avoid affecting the classroom. And I think that's the most important thing. There are things that can be cut, to be trimmed, and spare the classroom situation, because we're a district and the job is to educate children. And by taking away those resources, well, it seems like we're failing at that job. And I know options are slim, our revenues are dictated by others, but we got to do what we can to help the classroom situation for our children.
I'm going to reiterate a little bit of what Jason and Janice said. You know, Dr. Yenny has done a very good job of what he calls right-sizing the school district. He has done some efficiencies and gotten rid of some areas that were costing us money without impacting student achievement. That's going to be the most important part that we got to protect. Like Robert said, we have to protect student achievement, whatever that looks like. And I know the teachers do like all of the support. We've done everything we can to keep paraprofessionals, social workers, psychologists, counselors, because that's what makes our students successful, are those support services. And then also trying to come up with a way to give our teachers an external cost adjustment. We haven't had one of those in quite some time. So like Janice said, it's going to be a balancing effort, and it's going to be dictated by the board to go along with the strategic plan, but it's going to be something that's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to really take a lot of time and effort from everybody involved in the process.
Okay. I would say that our greatest priority should be in retaining and recruiting our quality teachers with competitive pay and benefits in the face of budget reductions. I agree. I would like to see the board look at an annual cost of living adjustment so that our teacher and staff salaries don't stagnate. A few other priorities, I think, like Janice mentioned, is our graduation rate at just under 80%. We can and should do better for our students. So that should be a priority that's been outlined in the strategic plan, and it's been great to see the board set metrics forward so that those are measurable. One other thing would be test scores that are mentioned in the strategic plan, trying to get those. We're testing above average, which again is great, but we can do better for our students. So aligning some of our curriculum so that we continue to test well above average compared to the state. A few other things that I think are priorities that we should focus on the strategic plan are some things like school security, and also just providing our students with opportunities to enhance their learning. Just extra things such as field trips and special programs and things that just kind of give them a well-rounded education.
Well, the last one to speak is inevitably going to be kind of redundant, I think, but whether it doesn't matter the context of, you know, the question of where you should dedicate resources when it comes to education, whether it's within the context of the school's strategic plan, within the context of these budget cuts, there's a one-word answer. It's teachers. That's where the resources should go first and foremost. If you don't have quality teachers, you are never going to be able to offer a quality education. As several people have pointed out, you know, the race situation in Laramie, Albany County has not been great recently. We once were head and shoulders above the pay scales of our surrounding states. That's no longer the case. If we don't pay our teachers, they are going to go teach elsewhere, and it will irreparably harm the education that we can offer our students here in Albany County.
Okay, the next question, and we'll start with Janice. What can the board do, or what is the board doing, to increase the variety of possible career and technical education tracks for high school students?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
That's a great question. With our new high school, we heard loudly and clearly from our community that they wanted additional space for our auto shop, and we were able to do that with the bond that the community supported. We have staff that comes over from LCCC to teach those classes. Also part of the bond, we were able to expand the culinary science facilities at the high school. That's another area that students have for the career and technical growth and programs there. There are several certifications that they can do within that program. We have welding, we have some wood shops. As far as what we can do to increase at this point, I think we continue to ask our students, what do you need? We look at trends of what the career paths are. Just last night we signed an MOU with the hospital to be able to offer EMT training and CNA training, as well as a program, and I believe it's called Project Search, that allows some of our special education students an opportunity there. So I feel like we're always looking for new opportunities to expand those programs, and we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, the opportunities in Laramie are wonderful at the high school. It was always amazing to walk into that school when it was brand new and to see not just the sports facilities, but you go in and you saw the welding shop, the wood shop, the culinary arts area, the ovens for baking. It was just amazing. My daughter is taking advantage right now of culinary arts. I get up and get her to school at 7 in the morning for 0 hours so she can take her baking class. And she just thoroughly enjoys it. So there is opportunity at the school right now for students for their career and technical options. Gosh, welding. Wish I could have been a incumbent welder, frankly. But I think there might be more offerings instead of, let's say, an introductory welding class, 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4. I know that there's a computer programming class that my daughter's also taking, and she's learning code. And she's learning code, and she's a sophomore in high school, and they've got community partners that are helping teach the class. This is just a wonderful opportunity for our students. I think that, you know, people ask for more, but maybe there's room for a few extra opportunities, but right now we have really good opportunities for our children at the high school.
I think one of the things that the board has done recently to create more opportunities for every student is the adoption. I think it's going to be the full adoption, and Jason and Candace can chime in, or not Candace, Janice can chime in here if they like. But there is a program called Naviance, and what that's going to do is going to allow 8th graders to work with the counselors at the junior high school, and they're going to be able to have a 4-year plan. So that 4-year plan is going to allow them to take classes that they're interested in. It doesn't necessarily have to be a college-bound student. It might be a student who prepares for culinary, like the Culinary Institute of America or something like that. But it's going to be something that we've been using it for a while, but now we're going to expand it. So every 9th grader who goes into high school is going to have a 4-year plan and is going to be able to take advantage of the computer science classes. Is going to be able to take advantage of the stuff offered at CCC and the stuff offered at the University of Wyoming based on their program and where they want to go after high school.
I would echo that. I, at the recent board meeting, was excited as a parent to know that the district is putting forth this 4-year plan for our kids starting in 8th grade, and to know that they'll have a plan to work through high school and graduation for their career, I think is a great step forward for us. You know, I think, like we talked about infrastructure at the high school that we've done with the community help has been important to increase opportunities for our kids. I think we can continue to partner with the great resources we have here in Laramie with Biotech and the university and professionals in Laramie that can help mentor our kids and see them along the way in different career paths. You know, and I would say not even just for the high school, but my 5th grader just had an extra after-school program, and they did coding and they did 3D printing. They flew drones, and so even for our younger kids, the district is starting to put a lot of emphasis there and give them that experience that will really broaden their horizons as they're moving through the system and just give them that new experience.
When it comes to career and technical education, I think the most important thing to remember looking forward is that whether it's welding or wood shop, everything that these students will be learning will be done by a robot in the not-so-distant future. Despite its many misdeeds, the legislature did do something smart last year and implemented computer science training and education in all K-12 schools. And it's been kind of frustrating to watch people try to figure out where computer science fits in the scheme of education. Some people think it's a science because it's called computer science. Some people think it's a foreign language because you teach computer language. But it's really a trade. It's a lucrative trade. It's a trade that doesn't deal with shaping metal or wood, but that's where it fits most sensibly. And all of our CTE courses need to integrate this computer science element, this coding element, so these students coming up are going to know how to use technology and how to use these new tools to be the most adept they can in these professions.
Well, I will echo what many others have said at the high school and the numerous career opportunities that students there have. I think it's fantastic. Way more than I ever had. I do think we should look with UW at more partnership because most of these kids are going to go to college and most of them are probably just going to go down the street towards UW. So we have a vast resource that we can take advantage of there that nobody else in the state even can come close to. We have business school, engineering, agriculture, various things in arts and sciences. We have all that we can utilize and partner with to try and get kids interested and try and get them stepped ahead into that career field. With Wildtech coming on strong, with you know, local ownership and all that, I think that's another great opportunity that we can take advantage of. Kind of like Beth said, my 2nd grader is actually learning coding right now, and he loves it. He wants to be a paleontologist, so he's figuring out how to combine both of those. And that's the path that I'm going to encourage him on if that's where he wants to go, is through technology and paleontology. And with the university and all that, there's so much there that he can learn from that is not provided. So I would like to see those interests start going down from the high school towards the middle school and then well into elementary so that students know what they want to do early on and can get excited about doing that rather than getting to college like I was and had no idea of what they wanted to do.
I've discussed this issue with some of our technical arts educators, and they're frustrated and they're concerned that the district doesn't focus on curriculum that expands their areas. And you know, it's a real tug of war between budgeting and other concerns about curriculum. Computer science is an excellent example. And what I can tell you is that I have listened to our in particular, high school shop teachers, and when it comes to curriculum, they've asked me as a board member to at least hear them out when it comes to curriculum changes and push curriculum at times that's more towards the technical arts. And so I listen to that, and from time to time, that's what I do, but I think that's the way that to address this issue, in my opinion.
Okay, for our next question, we'll start with Lawrence. Most people, of course, are familiar with the traditional approach to K-12 schools. Albany County, though, has an array of options that are not available in very many other school districts in the state. In particular, parents and students can choose between 2 charter schools, a school of choice, and of course, homeschooling. Do you believe these other options are a source of pride, concern, or both for the school district?
I believe that living in Laramie, we have one of the best options for public schools and education, I would say in the region. And based on that, I would say that's a source of pride, and I can say that yesterday during our regular school board meeting, the Snowy Range Academy made a presentation, and if you don't know, they were named one of the blue ribbon schools in the United States. So that right there tells me that we're doing it right. I have 2 daughters. I have one daughter who's still in high school and another daughter who graduated a couple of years ago. They went to the UW Lab School, which was an absolutely wonderful education for the both of them. But, that doesn't work for everybody. And just the fact that we have the Snowy Range Academy, we have the UW Lab School, we have the Montessori School, we have all of these options for a very small community that, because public education is not, it's not a fit for everybody, and so parents can pick and choose what works best for them. And when we allow that opportunity, I believe that allows children to flourish and to pursue excellence in their own way. And I think that's a great thing. And I have to say that there's not very many communities in the state of Wyoming that have these options. So it's wonderful.
I would agree. I think we are very lucky to have the options we had in Albany County, and that I think our schools are a source of pride, for sure. I think when my boys go to Bible Elementary, when we were looking at kindergarten for my oldest, it was a great thing as a parent to have the choice between Snowy Range and the Lab School at that time, now Montessori. So I think it's a good thing for our district. I think it makes us all better to have different options for people. I think we can learn from each other, which is a great thing. And just that choice is a great thing. And I agree, it was good to see the Blue Ribbon Award for Snowy Range, and I think that just highlights that is a source of pride for our community and for our district.
It seems to me almost quaint to be having this conversation in Laramie, given the broader context of the school choice movement and what's going on with education in the country. Because in other places, school choice is a code word for taking money away from public schools and giving it to private and religious schools, either via vouchers, via charters, etc. So while I think that the Snowy Range Academy is great, and it's a proud addition to our educational offerings here in Laramie, I remain hyper vigilant on this issue because, as I said, I spent 5 years in New Orleans post-Katrina. I watched the entire school system turn over to charters, and I watched predominantly negative effects take place in the context of educating all students. There's nothing, you can't provide a panoply of choices that's better when it comes to educating all students from rich or all different backgrounds than the public school system, a unified form of public instruction which our Constitution mandates of us.
I feel that all of our schools are an enormous sense of pride for our community. In talking with people around as I've been campaigning, I've gotten stories, I've heard nothing but great things about the schools that their children go to. So I feel that no matter what school your child attends to, that's where you want them to be. You're happy with where they're at. We have fantastic public schools. We have a great charter school at Snowy Range. We have a very great experimental school, as I call it, in the lab school, Montessori school, and homeschooling. Parents have so much of a choice now, and not everything fits for people. A lot of people don't like a charter school, don't like the idea of charter school. I know a lot of parents that don't like the idea of the lab school, that don't like the free kind of methods that they use, the different way that they teach stuff. Parents are routinely against it from what I've taught, but the parents that go to the lab school absolutely love it. I've never heard a negative thing about anyone that's gone to the lab school. Same with Snowy Range. I've heard nothing but great things about Snowy Range from the people that go there. So I think all of our schools are pride. Everything seems to be working. It gives our community an enormous sense of choice where they want to send schools, and they're not bound by one decision or the other. I'll take that. Give my kids.
I don't have much more to add than Lawrence stated. I can only tell you from experience, from my kids being young, looking around in Laramie and what might fit my kids, knowing their personalities and what they're like. We had options, and we appreciated it. We picked a school based on those options. I look at one of my law partners, and when her young kids were coming through, you could see that SRA was the best fit for one of her kids. And I look at some of my nephews and nieces. Lab school's a really good fit for one of my nieces. Would have been a good fit for my kids? No. But these are all state-funded schools, even though they all have some unique character. But I think they're a tremendous source of pride in Laramie. In Laramie, there's no slippery slope, I don't believe, in regards to them being considered a non-public school. I think they're excellent schools. I take a lot of pride in them, and I hope we're able to continue to fund them properly and support them properly.
I agree. I think our charter schools and the choices we offer are a source of pride for our school district. We know that not all students learn in the same way, and our charter schools provide very different approaches to learning, which allows parents the choice when they know how their students learn to be able to look at different options, and it's all in public education. They are all public schools. The funding is passed through the school district. So we're not looking at for-profit charter schools as some other states are. They all operate with funding from public education. So yes, I think it's great to be able to offer all those options for our students and our families.
Yeah, I really don't know what to add from what the majority have said. The schools are a source of pride, and people should be able to have choices. I mean, we moved here, my wife and I, with our children, and we had choices, and we fell in love with Slade, and my daughter loved the junior high school, now middle school, and we're very happy with the choices we made, but they may not be good for other folks, and if other people want to go someplace else, they have options. Far be it from me to tell somebody where they should go to school. If I disagree with their options, that's their choice. We have wonderful schools. I love the staff at Slade, and I've met a lot of the teachers there, met a lot of the teachers at the junior high, or middle schools now, and also at the high school. We have wonderful staff, wonderful people. It's a wonderful educational opportunity for children. So being able to have choice for parents, that's just another benefit of living in Laramie. This is a great place.
Okay, next question, we'll start with Nate, and we'll change things up here just a little bit. Given the financial situation for the school district and recent evidence with regard to neurological development, should the district continue football at the middle school and high school?
Ooh, yeah.
Yes.
Mike, can you restate the question again?
Sure. I'll restate this question. Given the district's financial situation and recent evidence with regard to neurological development, should the district continue football at the middle school and high school?
Right, so there's two pieces to that, the financial piece and the neurological development piece. Yes, I'll stand with, of course, we should continue football. There are smart ways to do so while not threatening our financial position or our children's neurological health. You can look at aspects of travel, you can look at aspects of equipment, you can look at aspects of the extra things that people become accustomed to on sports teams during boom times that aren't there during bust times, which is, I think, what we're dealing with right now in terms of the neurological aspect. The technology exists to make better helmets. Bodies like the NFL have refused to adopt these for different reasons, have refused to adopt rules that would prevent people from being injured for reasons of entertainment value. There's no reason we can't adopt those things at the county school district level to protect our children, yet allow them to keep playing the sports that, in many cases, keep kids coming to school in the first place.
So I feel, again, yes, as the two to my sides here have agreed, we should absolutely keep doing football. I think it's a great sport. It gives a great opportunity to many young members of our community. The health aspects, I feel there's a big difference between college and the NFL, and the fact that we all care about our children. It's not a moneymaker. It's not like Penn State or Michigan State where they're going to make money and they want to win a championship, so they don't care what happens to that student. Or the NFL, they don't care what happens to that player. We do care about our students and we care about the players, and I feel that we have a staff at the high school and the middle school that will look out for the best interest there. For instance, my chief's son actually got a concussion playing football and is now running track as a result. So it's a parent's choice too. They can make that choice if they don't want their child in there. Certainly nobody is forcing them in. And I feel like we have an existing financial system for football right now. Certainly looking at better helmets to prevent possible CTE issues would be something, as long as we can fit in the budget. But again, we're looking at the best interests of the students, and I don't feel that that's a serious concern that would come up, since we all want the best.
I don't know if I should answer this question. I have a varsity football player, so there's a hard one. I also I played rugby in college and then in men's club for quite a few years afterwards. And the answer is yes. Of course, the district should continue to support football at both the middle school and high school level. The money issue, I'm on the fundraising committee for the district, and we spend a lot of time properly funding not only athletics, but activities, and making sure there's a balance between the two. Families are the burden of the cost of athletics and activities is starting to fall more and more on fundraising, private monies. And so it's really, the district isn't just pouring money into athletics and football. So I think financially, I think we can sustain it. It's not, we're not at some sort of break point. Neurologically, at this juncture, I have to say that I'm not concerned about high school students developing CTE. I'm not concerned about my son CTE. I have some concerns if he was an NFL player. He won't be. If he is an NFL player or even a college player, maybe I would have some concerns about that. But I don't know. I'm still on the fence about that. I agree the way the technology is going, the changes in the game. A rugby player like me suggests everyone take their helmet and pads off, and no one will be hitting each other quite as hard.
That's a great question. I think it would be a huge cultural shift for our community to drop football. I think there would be a lot of conversations that would have to happen before that was canceled. I think it's important that we keep in mind the training for our coaches, that they're properly trained about how to identify the injuries, concussion signs in our students and the athletes, parents, everybody to be vigilant for watching for signs of injuries in their athletes. I think it's also important that we continue to provide the best protections that we can for our students, the helmets and the pads, and I think we've done a really good job at doing that. So yes, I think we should keep it for now.
Yeah, sports are really important. They teach team building. Football is just one of the largest teams that any school can field. So you got a lot of students that are involved working together for a common goal. So I think that's important, that aspect of sport. Now, with regard to finances and neurological and medical issues, financial, as mentioned before, right now there's not really an issue at the moment. The medical issues are more concerning, but I think what's important about that is that the rules of the game are changing. You can no longer lead with your head to tackle somebody. So that's a good thing. That actually messes up one's brain. They also changed the technology on helmets. I remember playing high school football many years ago, and I remember one of the helmets that was given to me, and I'm like, is this from the 1940s? I really thought I was going to get damaged, and luckily I got a new helmet. So the technology is drastically changed and altered, but I don't feel that we should be getting rid of football. That is a long-term conversation, and I don't think that time is here yet.
The safety and well-being of every child in the Albany County School District should be taken into consideration. But just picking on football, I think might be missing the point, because it's my understanding, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I believe soccer players sustain the same amount, if not more, head injuries than football players do. I played football all through high school. I wrestled in college at the University of Wyoming, and the only time I ever got knocked out was in a collegiate wrestling match. So maybe we should look at wrestling too. But I think that taking away sports because it's something that in the future may or may not happen would kind of be short-sighted. And it would take a big cultural shift in Laramie and in Wyoming to do that. You know, the financial thing is something that Jason touched on. You know, a lot of the sports is being financed through private funding, which is important. We have to look at transportation. Our transportation to the state of Wyoming is going to be, it's frozen right now, and it's probably not going to increase, so that's something we have to look at. But, you know, stopping football right now because it's something that might happen would kind of be short-sighted. It would take a lot of dedication and data and probably a lot of input from parents. And to be honest with you, I think parents have the final say in that.
Well, now I'm going to have to admit that I played high school soccer, but I don't think I got any concussions. But I agree, there's research out there also that shows that soccer gives concussions as well. I think I think there's new research, like everybody's mentioned, in helmets and in pads to keep our kids safe. From what I know of the high school football students that I've talked to, we are getting much better at recognizing the signs of concussions, about being smart, about keeping our kids' safety first, making sure that we recognize the signs, we treat them, they're staying out for the recommended number of games. And so I think we're much smarter than we used to be, based on some research coming out of the NFL, which has been a good thing. As a mom of two boys, this subject comes up a lot at my house, as they want to play football now, and we've talked about waiting. But I think it's an important point that it's a parent's choice, and it's kids in conjunction with their parents, and it's a decision that they can make. Nobody's being forced to play football or any other sport. So I think, yes, we keep football at the middle school and at the high school. As far as funding, we're currently funding those. I don't see why we wouldn't fund them the same as we fund other sports at those schools.
Okay, we'll start the next question with Jason Tangeman, and it's a two-part question. What is the school district's role regarding quality early childhood education? And is it necessary for young children to attend the preschool to become kindergarten ready?
Would you repeat that?
I'll repeat that. What is the school district's role regarding quality early childhood education? And is it necessary for young children to attend preschool to become kindergarten ready?
I think I'll reverse the answers and answer the second part of the question is yes. And the district's role, there's a lot of research and studies that say that the sooner you have quality education intervening into the child's life, the better for that child. And so I think it is the district's role to provide as a quality education as we can at the kindergarten level that we can. And I'm not sure, I know it's a two-part question, I'm not sure I can answer it more substantively than that.
As far as the role that the district plays in providing quality early childhood education, we are somewhat limited by funding. I know that our representative Connolly has been very strong in her support and her advocacy for more funding for preschool programs. And I think that's something that is being recognized as an important factor in school success, in kindergarten success, and as the preparation and the foundational work for education. So I think it is important, and we do have a role, we do have an obligation, and it is limited somewhat by funding. As far as, is it necessary? I don't think it is totally necessary. I think there are some students who come with support from their families that have the opportunities to have educational experiences at home. I think it is often a choice for parents to provide those preschool learning opportunities. And for those students who don't have it, yes, preschool is essential to their school success.
So, first part of the district. Well, I know the district does have, for example, at Slade Elementary, they have half-day pre-kinder classes for children to attend. They go in the morning or in the afternoon, and it seems to be very beneficial for those children that do move on when they go on into kindergarten. So there is an aspect where the district does have a program that just can't be district-wide just because of funding issues. With regard to, is it beneficial to be kindergarten ready, or necessary to be kindergarten ready? It helps, but not every family has the opportunity that others have to be able to provide their children with the foundations for when they walk into kindergarten. It just takes longer for everybody to get up to speed in kindergarten classes if there are certain students that just aren't necessarily ready to walk in the door and from day one, hey, you're in school. So is it beneficial? Yeah, it would be very beneficial, but ultimately not everybody has the same opportunity. So if the schools could somehow get the funding to expand the pre-K program, that would be wonderful, but it always comes down to money.
So not only am I a product of public education in the state of Wyoming, but I'm also a Head Start graduate. I was born in one of those families who was underprivileged, and if it wasn't for the Head Start that allowed me to be school ready coming into kindergarten, I don't think I'd be where I am right now. And I also serve currently as the board president on Laramie Head Start here in Laramie. I've been on the board since 2012 for Head Start, and it's been my dream to somehow have Head Start fall under the purview of the school district. I don't know how that would work, but that's always been my dream. But I do believe that the school district, if the funding was there, should play an integral part of early childhood education. You know, Kathy Conley has worked tirelessly for the last several years to try to get that through state legislature. Not everybody in the state of Wyoming believes that's necessary, but like Jason said, we know when kids come to school with that early learning, they're better prepared, not only academically, but social and emotional ways as well. So I wish the school district had more what's the word I'm looking for? More of a hand in early childhood education to make sure that every child has that opportunity.
As far as being necessary or required, I don't think it is. I think it's a huge benefit, though. Both of my boys went to preschool. I think it's really good for kids. Not only are they academically ready, but socially and emotionally. By the time they get to kindergarten, they know how a classroom works. They know how to interact with their peers. So I definitely think it's a benefit. And I know, I believe that Rock River has a parent-funded preschool that they're starting, and that there's others as well. I think the district or the board's role is really in supporting and working with the state to try to fund some of these programs. The state does fund some preschool. I think there's 4 in Laramie that are funded through TANF grants, so that preschool is accessible to more students. I think the more that we can do that and the more grants that we can have and more opportunities for preschool, the better. One other thing that I wanted to mention is one thing that the district does do that I would just like to highlight and support is the Step Ahead program. I think that's been great for our students. It's 1 or 2 weeks, but for my kids it was really, really good. They had preschool, but it was nice to have them be in the classroom setting, to meet the teachers, and they hit the ground running on day 1. So not only is preschool important, but that Step Ahead program that the district does, I think, is very important and should be continued.
I'm in agreement with all of the candidates that early childhood education is very important. The science has unequivocally backed that up. The one thing I'll add in terms of the role of the district is that, you know, it's not a one-way street where we sit here and we watch the legislature just cut and cut and cut our budget. It's a two-way street. And I believe that school board members have a responsibility to advocate for funding like things like early childhood education to lawmakers, not just Kathy Connolly and Chris Rothfuss, because you're preaching to the choir, but educating other members of the state legislature and letting them know how important this is, letting them know how much of a benefit this would be to our children and how much of a benefit it would be to our financial situation, because although early childhood education would require some upfront funding to implement, it would save money down the line. There was a firm that the legislature hired last year to conduct a recalibration study, and that was one of their main recommendations. Implement early childhood education, and you will save money down the line because you'll decrease the need for interventions with students who aren't up to standards.
So what I'll start off with is it necessary? No, but I will change that to it should be very strongly supported and encouraged. My child went through these preschool over at Slade as well, and I know there's another one, I believe, at Linford. And he learned so much. He was so ready for school, especially considering he's in that fun age where he can either be the youngest in his class or the oldest in his class. So it helped him immensely. I think it prepares students going into kindergarten greatly, because kindergarten is essentially first grade for many of us now. The stuff that my child learned in kindergarten was first grade, maybe even a little bit of second grade type stuff. So those requirements and pressures keep getting put on earlier and earlier. So I'm able to get that social and emotional balance and support at an earlier age is just critical to their long-term development. As Beth said, Step Ahead is fantastic. I've been very sad to see that the district has had to cut that recently, and it's gone down from, I think, 3 weeks to now about 4 days right now. But that helps get a lot of those little things out of the way, like how to line up, how to sit down, how to be quiet, that kindergarten teachers don't have to spend the first month trying to teach children. They can start getting into the academics and the social situations that they will learn.
Okay, we'll kick this one off with Robert. What's your position on arming teachers in the classroom?
Wow. Hey, thanks for letting me start that one. I don't really have an opinion on arming teachers in the classroom, frankly. That's straight up, that's a yes-no question. And if you're on a school board, you're dealing with the policy. So policy is made by a community, by the people that come to the workshops, and you work and you talk about issues. So it's not a yes-no situation. I really don't have an opinion on it. I mean, as a board member, you'd be voting on policy. So I would have to see what the policy is. I mean, you don't just give somebody a gun and say, hey, you're going to protect children. Well, what kind of training is this person going to have? I mean, what is the policy required on something like that? I mean, do you have to have firearms training? Do you have to have lengthy firearms training? Do you have to have firearms training for the specific firearm you're going to bring in the classroom? There are all sorts of issues that are associated with just, aside from just saying, oh, putting guns in the classroom with the teacher. So I'm going to have to hedge and say that I have to see a policy before I'm going to say yay or nay.
So Mike, so the question is, what's your position on arming teachers in the classroom? Is
Right.
that okay? I figured this was going to come up this evening. You had thought that I prepared for it. But, you know, I get that. I understand that when we have these mass school shootings where a lot of innocent children and teachers and employees die, you know, there's a gut reaction to do something to keep that from happening ever again in the future. So I get the idea of having arming teachers in the classroom. However, I don't agree with that. We have a very small community, and I was a police officer here for 10 years, And I know our response time from one side of the town to the other side of town is relatively short. So I would hope that if we were to have something like that, that the law enforcement response time would be something that would keep that from escalating to a more deadly situation. And I believe that we have people who are trained, and that's what they do to handle those situations. So I would say that arming teachers in the classroom would be a bad idea at this point in time. However, I'll stick with what Robert said. It was something that had to be dealt with by the school board after much input from the community and everybody involved in that whole decision.
I'm glad this question came up because it's important to me and I have a lot written. First, I just wanted to talk about school safety and say we need to continue to make our schools as safe as possible. The planning and preparation the district has already done is a huge step. I'd like to look at continuing to make secure classrooms, the addition of resource officers, continued training, working with our counselors to make sure that our students are emotionally and mentally healthy as well, are important things that I think we continue to need to work on. I don't think we can stop and say our schools are ever safe enough. And as a parent, I will want to written the board several times about this topic because it's so important to me. At this time, I'm not in favor of a school sentinel program or arming teachers. I think our teachers' jobs are to educate our students in academic and life skills. I don't believe it's a burden that we should place on our teachers and that they should have to choose whether they're going to carry a firearm. I come from a background, my father was a police officer for 30 years, and I know the training and the awareness and just the mental preparedness that goes with that profession. And those are the people that I think need to be responding to these situations. And so at this point, I would not be in favor of arming teachers, but I am absolutely in favor of continuing to do all that we can to keep our schools safe.
There's that movie, Kindergarten Cop, where Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a real-life action hero who's sent to teach kindergarten. And I think in that instance, where you had some kind of superhero teaching, I would be in favor of arming them if they had, you know, a real proven history of using firearms to thwart evildoers. But without that, I would be against arming teachers. I mean, we don't let a person go teach social studies unless they have a long background and experience in teaching social studies. I don't understand why you would let a person into a classroom with a gun unless they had experience using that in a real, active, live fire situation. I used to be a wilderness guide up in grizzly country by Yellowstone, and I'd hear people, "Oh, bear, come attack me, I'm gonna just pull out my gun and shoot it." Like, no, you're not. You're going to be terrified because you have no experience doing that and no wherewithal to do that. And if you were in an active shooter situation in a school, you would likely just shoot a bunch of little kids. So that's a no.
Personally, no. I am not in favor of it. I don't believe the guns should be in our schools. However, that is not my, it's not up to me. That is up to the community. That's up to the values that the community places in that type of thing. And it is up to the teachers, ultimately. Never would I ever suggest that we put a weapon in a teacher's hands that is not fully trained, that is not certified, that does not continue to go through active training with members of law enforcement. And those are things that, if that was to happen, I would expect out of those teachers that would be carrying. We have currently 3 SROs that assist the schools. I would like to see more, if possible. But like Lauren said, I know very well the response times. There are officers going in and out of these schools all day. There's always an officer very, very close to those schools. I hear it on the radio all the time. Ultimately, though, guns are not what would help in this. It's going to be proper training for the teachers. The teachers are what are going to help save lives, and I would like to see the district move towards maybe a different active shooter scenario like ALICE training, or something else that would allow us to be able to secure the students rather than putting guns, as I view that would be a last measure support.
So I'm aware that other school districts in Wyoming have adopted these policies pursuant to enactments by our legislature, and so it may or may not be in front of our school board in the near future. Statistically, school shootings are very, very rare, and you have one though in your community, and then it's of course on top of you. think this is a bad idea. I don't think it's effective. I've talked to my father about this, who's a former retired principal, superintendent, and he thinks about, really, you're going to arm that teacher? He just thinks about particular teachers and what a bad idea would be. That person's going to have a gun in the classroom? What a bad idea. And it goes, I think, it's part and parcel of what Nate just said about, actually pulling the trigger and actually in a live shooting situation. It's just a bad idea. I actually have met with some folks that have some very interesting technology ideas about face recognition software, improving security at the front door. We did try to design this building with security in mind, specifically the high school. We have training involved with our teachers. If you want to get real about this issue, then you have the legislature, appropriate tens of millions of dollars, and we have full security at the front door, and we have full armed security at the front door with
Okay, time to let Janice take one.
I wasn't done.
This has been interesting to watch around the state. I believe there's only one district that has gone forward with allowing teachers to be armed. There are a couple of other communities that are looking at it. They are doing safety assessments of their buildings. They're looking at some of the questions that have been answered or asked. Who provides the guns? Who provides the training? How often is the training? How many people do we need to be safe? The conversations I've had with law enforcement people have not recommended this. In a crisis situation, their accuracy as trained professionals is very low. And when we think about a teacher with a gun that's not what they're trained to do. There are lots of little children running around. I think the risk is just too great to arm teachers. I think that we need to seriously consider our safety and security. It is a top priority for me. I think we have some good things in place right now. I think we need to continue to be vigilant about trainings and about drills for our students. We need to always be aware. We need to be training everybody in our schools to be vigilant. If you see something, say something. We need to focus on being partners with our law enforcement communities. That's my time.
Okay, go ahead and keep the microphone, Janice. Okay. This will be the final question, and then we'll have a wrap-up. And then, of course, you'll have 30 minutes to talk one-on-one with the members of the audience. Wanted to squeeze this last one in because 3 different people in the audience asked about it. And so I tried to be succinct in the question. And we'll start with Janice. Should there be more civic education in the schools, and should it be a required course?
I think more civic education would be a great idea. I'm not sure how we work it in. I think it could be done. I think it would have to be approached from a curriculum district-wide perspective. I know one of our former legislators often talked about a program that was available for legislators to come into the schools and talk to our students, and he always asked me why we never did that, and I was never sure, but I think that's a great learning opportunity for our students. And we talk about preparing our students to function in our world, to be leaders, to be engaged in their communities. I think that would be a great pathway for providing encouragement to be involved in their communities as leaders.
Yeah, this has been one of my gripes for a very long time concerning civic education. It's not necessarily the civic education, it's the curriculum involved with the civic education. One of the issues about standardized testing is that it tests English language arts, math, and science. There's no standardized testing for civics. There's no rigor for civics. And so it seems like, oh, well, we don't have to worry about it. We need to focus on English language arts. We need to focus on math. We need to focus on science. No, we need to focus on civics. So it's not about offering more. It's about being effective with what is there. I think that core fundamentals about civil society need to be taught in the classrooms. I remember my wife, when she started teaching in middle school, the program for the Civil War was watching Gone with the Wind. I mean, that was the Civil War program. And I'm like, wow, and this is the problem. There's no standardized testing for civics, for government, for economics. We have these classes, but without having any true rigor, they're not going to learn anything. So there just needs to be an adjustment in the way we perceive what's important in our education for children.
I agree that civics is going to be an important part of any education, especially if you want to be a leader in the community or just you know, being a well-rounded individual. However, how we go about doing that, it would be a lot of work as far as core, how the curriculum would be set up, and how it would be rigorous. I agree that it would have to be rigorous, but yeah, that is something that I believe is something that the school district should look into. I've said before that we live in Laramie, Wyoming, with the University of Wyoming, and I believe Albany County School District 1 should be the leader in education in the state of Wyoming. And so I think it's something that, you know, the future boards could look into to see if that's something we could adopt.
I would agree. I think it's important, and I think our job is to ensure that our students are well-rounded individuals, that they know the basics in the core curriculum, and that they also are well-rounded and educated in other fields, and that they have the life skills necessary to be successful after they graduate. So I do think it's important, as Janice mentioned, if we can fit it in the curriculum, I think absolutely that's important. If not, I think we can look at ways to integrate civics into what we're already teaching our kids so that they are well-rounded and ready for life after high school.
I don't have kids in the school system, so I don't really have a dog in that fight in that manner, so to speak. I'm predominantly interested in public education because I believe it's the foundation for a functioning, successful democracy, and civics education is an integral part of that. As Mr. Perea said, it would be a lot of work to integrate civics, especially, as Mr. Mobley said, with the demands of standardized testing. But this is the world. The world that we live in depends on this question. Education, for at least several decades now, has been increasingly tuned to preparing students to have jobs and be productive members of the economy. And I think that has eclipsed, to a certain degree, being an informed citizen and productive citizen in your community, whether you're a leader or whether you're just someone who's living among all of the others in this world.
My senior year in high school, I participated in a program called Close Up, which was a year-long civics class and culminated with a fantastic 10-day trip to Washington, D.C., where we got to see Congress, we got to see the Supreme Court, we got to meet with our legislatures, and that sparked a lifelong interest and love of public service, which is why I'm in the job I'm in now, and why I am so hopeful to serve on the school board. As the rest of my candidates have said, it's hard to fit in with the existing curriculum. I think it should be fit in, and we should make efforts to try and get that placed into our curriculum and place a higher emphasis. Unfortunately, the way education has gone, we've placed a higher emphasis on math and English and science, which are extremely valuable, but I feel that social studies and civic duties like that, or civics education, has gone by the wayside as a result. So I would love to see more civics. I think that should be something that's taught in there from an early age, and I feel that allowing students to kind of get that public service interest and see how government works and become informed members of how they can better their communities is only going to better everyone.
So notwithstanding the hurdles, my answer to the question is yes. And as an attorney, I would hope all attorneys would answer the question yes. I think it's a wonderful question, and I think today, in light of sort of our sometimes hyper-partisan political atmosphere that we seem to live in sometimes, and sort of the absence of an understanding of our government by folks on either side of the spectrum. There's an absence of understanding of what our Constitution actually means and what process actually means and what statutes actually means. Instead, there's a lot of screaming about what you want and not understanding what it means. And so it's a great question. It's a wonderful question, and notwithstanding the hurdles that may exist, I say yes.
Okay, we're about out of time here, so we'll field one last question. We'll start with Beth. And this one, you only have 1 minute each. And it's your opportunity to wrap up. And so say whatever you want to the audience. You have 1 minute, and Beth, go right ahead.
I just feel like I'm going to continue where I got cut off because I went over to begin with. So just wanted to wrap up and just say that I'm running for school board. And again, I have a vested interest. I have 2 kids in the district. But I think that giving them a quality education is one of the most important things we can do. It shapes who they are, what they know about the world, and where they head in the future. I think we're doing a whole lot right in our school district. And really, I know that there's challenges ahead and just want to do my part to help our schools, our teachers, our staff, our administrators, and really just help out to make sure that our district and our schools continue to thrive.
Wyoming recently ranked #1 in the nation in closing the achievement gap between students who are on free and reduced lunch and their better off peers. Albany County was part of this. That is one of the greatest achievements that I can hope to try to continue as a member of the school board, is working to provide an education for all students. That's the job of public schools, is to take kids who come from all different types of backgrounds and raise all boats, so to speak. And that would be my driving principle as a member of the Albany County School Board.
I unfortunately didn't get a chance to reiterate this because this wasn't a question that came up really, but I think we need to definitely support our teachers in every way possible. I feel that is a capital that we are underserving at this current moment. Not even amongst salaries. I feel that we need to allow teachers to have a bigger voice in decision making, and we need to respect and value that voice rather than just allowing them to sit in the room and listen while their suggestions and voices are ignored. So I think that allowing teachers more input on what's going on and listening to them, because without good teachers we can't have high performing students.
So over the last 4 years, it's at least my perception that the district is on the rise. Achievements, test scores are on the rise, teacher morale is on the rise, and I'd like to continue that. I think we've been successful. I think we have a great superintendent. I'd like to continue to support him. I'd like to continue to support teachers. I think I make valuable contributions to the board and to the district, and I think if I'm on the board for another 4 years, our goal, we're already above the state average in the state of Wyoming. But we have one district in the whole state that apparently is, at least on test scores, is better than us, and that's up in Sheridan. And I think we have an achievable goal. We have a very high standard that we're looking to set in our long-term plan. But I think in the short term, we can overtake Sheridan. And so we have also a very reachable, achievable goal.
I think we have some great leadership in our district right now, in our central administration. We have amazing, dedicated teachers who work tirelessly for their students in this district. I would like to be part of the consistency and the leadership going forward. I think we are on the verge of doing great things for our students and continuing to support our teachers and providing excellent educational opportunities for our students. And I would really welcome the opportunity to be part of this leadership going forward. Thank you.
I'm running for the board because I have a vested interest in the community. I have kids in the schools. I have lived in darn near every part of the United States, it seems like. The East Coast, West Coast, Southwest, almost the South, Oklahoma. I don't know where that really fits. It's in the middle. But I've seen different systems, how they operate. I've seen what works, what doesn't work. I think I bring just a different level of experience from living all over. Basically jumping from one school to another for a different program for my educational background. But it's all about children. and it's all about helping our classroom teachers to do their jobs, to be effective, so our kids are able to achieve and to succeed and to grow and to have lifelong striving to learn forever.
Again, I would like to thank the Laramie League of Women Voters for these community forums. They're wonderful, and they allow us to talk about some important or subjects that happen within our communities. I consider it an honor to share this table with such thoughtful and passionate supporters of public education. Thank you for everything that you guys have brought to this evening. But like I said, this is the best job I've ever had. And like I said, I've sat through the bad, I've sat through the good, and now this is great. And I agree with Jason, we're going to catch Sheridan, because I told Dr. Yeti a year ago that that's what I want to do, and I reiterated it last week. So that's one of the things that I want to do, and I want to continue that good work, because we have employees in Albany County School District 1 who make this happen, and I want to continue to support every employee here.
Okay, we're already better than Sheridan, but it's going well, thanks. But I do want to join with Lawrence and also convey what a high-quality forum this was tonight. Thank you. Here are a few topics we couldn't get to, just in case you're asked afterwards when you're talking one-on-one with folks out there. A couple questions with regard to sexual assault and harassment. And those came in a little bit late after I had pegged up some of the other questions. There was one question about whether any of you have a conflict of interest that would affect your voting, and standardized testing. And so, but just you've hit on just about everything else that we asked. Again, just absolutely superb tonight. And you dealt with the questions directly and thoughtfully. This school district and this community is very fortunate to have every one of you running, and I wish you the best of luck. And turn it over to Nancy.
I'll just be brief here. And again, thank you candidates for being here tonight. Thank you audience members for coming out and asking good questions and listening and becoming more informed. Pass that information along to the other voters. Procedurally, as I mentioned, we need to put away chairs. They go on in this back closet here. There are stackers. They go on 20 per chair. We need to stack all the chairs except maybe leave about 15 out that get put up front here that are left out front. We put away all the tables except 2 of the back tables here need to stay up. The tables need to go in the closet first logistically, or it's a real problem. So take the stackers out, we can stack chairs on them, and don't wheel them back in until we get the tables put in. So thank you all, and we do have one more next Thursday night, so maybe we'll see some of you again.